And I would like to, for us to notice that Mrs. Carlisle is not with us this evening. And as we take a moment for a silent prayer for medication, let's please keep Mrs. Carlisle and her family in our thoughts and our prayers. Thank you. And if you would please join me, stand and join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have no public comments this evening, so I'm going to read the short version of Lee County mission. Lee County Schools will teach each student the social and academic skills needed to become a responsible, productive citizen. And is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I'd next like a motion to approve the minutes for May 30th, June 3rd, June 12th, June 18th, June 30th, which was our joint meeting with the Boards of Education from Lee and Chatham and Harney County, and our meeting for June the 30th.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 30th, June 3rd, June 12th, June 18th, June 30th joint meeting, and June 30th, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Our minutes are approved. We can proceed with the chairman's report, and the chairman has no report. It's too hot. And Dr. Bryan, if you'd like to proceed with the superintendent's report.
A couple of things I'd like to update the board on. First, to the legislative update. Obviously, two of the main issues affecting public schools in North Carolina over the last few weeks, Common Core and also certainly important, the budget. This afternoon there was actually movement on both those issues. The Senate, as sort of was noted last week, but details weren't provided, a conferee bill was put together, and my understanding has been agreed to by the Senate and the House for the Common Core, which would do away with Common Core and put together an 11-member committee that would be created that would come up with new standards for North Carolina. And those standards would allow for Common Core to be part of those standards, but not all. So there are some things that it can be poured over from Common Core, but it can't be all Common Core as it is right now. The 11 members are appointed by Speaker of the House, by the President Pro Tem of the Senate. One is the Chair of the State Board, and one is appointed by Chair of the State Board, and also one's appointed by the Governor. There are to be no elected officials on that committee, which means that the state superintendent would also be disqualified from serving on that 11-member committee.
Dr. Brown, I have a question before you move off of that. There's been a lot of noise concerning Common Core, and I'm curious, and you may not be able to answer this because I certainly have not been able to ascertain it in reading the reporting on it, but what specifically are the objections that the legislature has in Common Core as it currently consists?
Most of the objections I've heard have come in the form of, I guess the easiest way to say it is the federal government sort of imposing standards, state of North Carolina. I'm not sure if I'm saying that the right way, but
so their
I've heard that
objection-
argument.
The main objection, and I've kind of sensed that, so that you said the main objection is the fact that of the imposition from the federal government to on the states.
That's my understanding. I've also heard some legislators state that they would like to see, they've used the term, even more rigorous standards. But the vast majority have been the first statement.
Well, it seemed curious, because the objection seemed to be because involvement from the federal level. But my understanding of the development of these Common Core standards was that it was developed, more locally and then approved federally.
Actually, one of the original recommendations came from the National Governors Association.
The governors, right?
If you trace the history all the way back.
And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I think.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
It just seemed, and that's why I used the term noise. It seemed to be just more noise than substance involved in this issue.
It'll be certainly everybody. Certainly, teachers want to know what in the future.
Absolutely,
we're staying the same as we are right now.
If they're going to be judged, they want to know about what standards
yeah,
are going to
they
be
want to
judged.
know what standards. So everybody will be anticipating what that will look like.
Mr. Superintendent, I have a question as well. From what I read before they agreed on this joint together, that the committee had till the end of 2015, right, to come up with recommendations. Is that correct?
I have not been able to read through the entire bill yet, but I believe the committee. Now I have to check this, but I think the committee has to dissolve by December 31st, 2015.
I believe that's right as well. I remember reading that, and that's sticking in my head. So so for this school year starting up, what do we do? I mean, do we keep teaching Common Core?
As I read it, we're still teaching Common Core.
Okay.
As it is right now.
While they're investigating.
Yes, but I believe the state board will have to make. I believe it's at the end of this year. I'll check it again. I haven't been able to read through it all. The state board will have to make a recommendation on what the assessments will be.
Okay.
For how things will be measured.
So we just kind of keep going what we're doing in the meantime while
That's
they're
correct.
figuring this out.
Right.
So that's interesting because the House version didn't want, originally before they came to this agreement, they didn't want to do Common Core at all. In the sense, I'm glad at least that Common Core is going to be. I mean, I wish they wouldn't even mess with it and they just leave it alone and never even went down this road. Because I agree with everything Mr. Bernardi said about the noise and all of that. And I agree with him on all of that. But I wish they would have just left it alone to start with. But I'm glad that if they're going to at least keep Common Core as an option, if they're going to go down this road, I'm glad that at least they're going to keep it an option. And I was always, I'm always for checking into things and seeing how we can do things better and improving and doing a study to make improvements to it, but I was totally against completely doing away with it. So I'm glad that at least they're going to keep it, even though I wish they just would have left it alone. But okay.
Second part of the legislative update has to do this afternoon. Conferees for the Senate and House met, and the Senate put out a counter proposal for the two competing budgets. Senate maintained their 11% average increase for teachers, and also said that teachers who have tenure would not have to give up tenure. But at the same time, they still maintained the teacher assistant cut that was in there. The Senate sort of was able to give their presentation this afternoon. The conferees will reconvene tomorrow morning at 10, and I believe the House will have their sort of a counter offer on the table as well. So going back all the way to last week before the 4th, certainly they're in deep discussions about what this will look like. And there were several of the representatives from the House side were talking about the potential of if teacher assistants were cut, that would mean about 7,400 teaching assistants across the state would lose their jobs.
Well, and that's concerning, but even on top of that is what is that going to do in student achievement in the classroom is what I would be even more concerned about.
And I think that's what several of the representatives pointed out in their discussion. There also have certainly have disagreement over the lottery and how much money should be spent on advertising and proceeds should be used. So it seems they still have some issues to iron out, certainly.
I noticed this afternoon it was talking about the 11%, and that would move us, I think in North Carolina, what is it, 4th in the South from the bottom. Do you think that this is just a strategy to keep, some of the southern states from just sort of like, taking a few of the teachers, like in Texas and, Florida and places like that? Do you think that's just a strategy that they're using?
I think everyone has recognized that having teacher pay at 46 in the nation is probably not the best way to attract and retain the best quality teachers.
And just going back on what Mr. Bernardi said about the teacher assistants, that makes me very nervous, especially if we're going to have more rigorous standards, but you don't have that extra help in the classroom. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I've been very fortunate to help out during summer reading school, and I've been spending Monday and Wednesday mornings with 6-year-olds for a good chunk of the morning from 8 to 11:30. And I tell you, you really need that extra set of hands in there. And we've got small groups in there. We've only got we had 13 students yesterday, in our classrooms. I can't imagine having 20 some students in there and just being one person and not having that extra help. I just can't imagine that. Just from what my experience have been the last couple weeks, you really need that extra person in there. So if we're expected to have more rigorous standards for these students, but you don't have that extra help, that's just counterproductive to trying to achieve those standards. It doesn't make any sense to me. So we really need those teacher assistants in there. It makes me very nervous. I don't like that at all.
The other thing, just to update you on, we've had a host of summer activities going on, and I'm not going to go into great detail in this. I would like to bring some folks back to the August meeting to talk a little bit about some of the things they've done this summer, but we've had a lot of teachers in professional development with Understanding by Design and AVID and NAF, a lot of things that you all have made priorities for our school district, and certainly cite that as important for us. But we've also, besides the staff development for teachers, we've also had a number of activities for students. Of course, we had our summer school for students with Read to Achieve, but we also held summer school for first and second graders as well, and things have gone really well. Students have been great, teachers have been great, parents have been very supportive, and it's been a really good summer as far as that goes. We've also had several camps. Of course, our annual Kaleidoscope Camp, which for our AIG students and their annual trip to Washington, D.C., which went very well. And we've also had some STEM and robotics camps, some math camps, and some environmental science camps as well. So we've tried to give lots of different opportunities to students to sort of, during the summer, to have some enriching opportunities and some rich learning experiences that'll help them maybe decide on some areas that they want to pursue later on. So what I'd love to do is bring some students in and some teachers in at our next meeting to talk about those things in a little bit more detail. I think it's always good to hear the firsthand experience with that. That concludes my report. Dr. Smith.
We can now continue with committee reports, curriculum instruction,
Mr. Chairman, no report.
facilities and technology.
Mr. Chairman, Facilities and Technologies met on June the 27th, and we had a presentation concerning the use of coal tar sealants versus asphalt-based sealants, and the administration is going to continue to investigate to determine if we need to make a change in our requirements for the sealants for our parking lots. And we also were updated that the city of Sanford's going to be installing some sidewalk at the campus at Lee County High School, and we potentially may, they're covering the cost of it, but there may be some additional sidewalk that we might add that would be a cost to us, but that's being looked into a little further, and also continue to look at the possible need for some additional fencing here at Lee County High School behind the baseball field down near the maintenance building area. And our next meeting is August the 26th.
Finance, Mr. Akinosha.
At this time, we had a last meeting on the 19th, and as of now, this month, we've not scheduled anything.
Policy, Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Chairman, the policy committee did not meet in June, and we're still waiting to see if we'll be having a meeting in July.
Thank you for your contribution. At this point, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as approved?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. We have no unfinished or new business on our schedule, so Mr. Akinosha, if you would make a motion, we'll proceed with closed session.
I move that the Lee County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under NCGS Section 143.318.11 A and 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We'll proceed with closed session. To approve the Human Resources Report.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the Human Resources Report as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. The Human Resources Report is approved. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. And that's a record, folks.
Heck, if all our meetings like this, I would have been able to
Frank, is that the motion to get everybody out of here?